Resident Evil 4. Originally released in 2005, this game revolutionized the survival horror genre and set new standards for third-person shooters. In Resident Evil 4, you play as Leon Kennedy, a government agent tasked with rescuing the president's daughter, Ashley Graham, from a mysterious cult in rural Spain. The game's narrative is filled with intense action, unexpected twists, and memorable characters, making it a standout entry in the Resident Evil series. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Resident Evil 4 was its over-the-shoulder camera perspective. This new camera angle provided a more immersive and dynamic gameplay experience, allowing players to aim and shoot with greater precision. This innovation influenced countless third-person shooters that followed, establishing a new standard for the genre. The game's combat mechanics were also revolutionary. Resident Evil 4 introduced context-sensitive controls and quick-time events, adding layers of interactivity and tension to the gameplay. The variety of enemies, each requiring different strategies to defeat, kept the combat fresh and engaging. The introduction of the Las Plagas parasites added a new dimension to the horror, making enemies more unpredictable and dangerous. Resident Evil 4's level design was another standout feature. The game seamlessly blended linear and open-ended areas, creating a sense of exploration and discovery. The environments were richly detailed, from eerie villages and ancient castles to underground laboratories, each with its own atmosphere and challenges. The game's pacing was masterful, balancing intense action sequences with moments of suspense and puzzle solving. This kept players constantly on their toes, never knowing what to expect next. The boss battles were particularly memorable, each requiring unique tactics and offering thrilling encounters. Visually, Resident Evil 4 was ahead of its time. The character models, environments, and special effects were highly detailed and immersive, pushing the hardware capabilities of the consoles it was released on. The sound design also contributed to the game's atmosphere, with eerie ambient noises and a haunting musical score enhancing the sense of dread and tension. If you're a fan of survival horror and haven't played Resident Evil 4, it's a game you shouldn't overlook. Its innovative gameplay mechanics, immersive design, and intense action set a new benchmark for the genre and continue to influence games today. Dive into this classic and experience a game that was truly ahead of its time. Max Payne. Released in 2001, this game is renowned for its groundbreaking narrative style and innovative gameplay mechanics. In Max Payne, you play as the titular character, a former NYPD detective turned vigilante after his family is brutally murdered by drug addicts. The game's story is a dark and gripping tale of revenge, conspiracy, and betrayal, told through a series of noir-style graphic novel panels and voiceovers that draw you into Max's troubled world. One of the most revolutionary features of Max Payne was its introduction of bullet time, a mechanic that allows players to slow down time during combat. This mechanic, inspired by the slow-motion action sequences in movies like The Matrix, gave players the ability to dodge bullets and take out enemies with stylish precision. Bullet time added a strategic layer to the gunplay and became a defining feature of the game, influencing many action games that followed. The game's combat system was fluid and dynamic. Max could perform acrobatic moves such as diving sideways while shooting, adding a cinematic quality to the action sequences. The combination of bullet time and Max's agility made every gunfight feel intense and satisfying. Max Payne's narrative delivery was also ahead of its time. The use of graphic novel-style cutscenes, complete with voiceovers and atmospheric music, created a distinctive and immersive storytelling experience. The game's dark and gritty tone, combined with Max's internal monologues, gave it a unique noir feel that set it apart from other action games of the era. Visually, Max Payne pushed the limits of what was possible at the time. The detailed environments, realistic character models, and impressive special effects, especially the bullet time sequences, were highly advanced for its release year. The game's attention to detail in recreating the urban landscapes of New York City added to the overall immersion. The sound design in Max Payne was also exceptional. The game featured a moody and atmospheric soundtrack that complemented the dark narrative. The voice acting, particularly James McCaffrey's performance as Max Payne, was top-notch and added depth to the character. If you're a fan of action games with a strong narrative focus, Max Payne is a game you shouldn't overlook. Its innovative gameplay mechanics, compelling story, and cinematic presentation set new standards for the genre and continue to influence games today. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. In Uncharted 4, you step into the boots of Nathan Drake, a retired treasure hunter who was pulled back into the world of adventure by his long-lost brother Sam. The story is a gripping and emotional tale of brotherhood, redemption, and the search for a legendary pirate treasure. One of the standout features of Uncharted 4 is its stunning visuals. The game's graphics were revolutionary at the time of release, with incredibly detailed character models, lifelike animations, and breathtaking environments. From lush jungles and ancient ruins to bustling cities and treacherous mountains, every location is beautifully rendered and immersive. The attention to detail and the dynamic lighting effects make the world feel alive and believable. The gameplay in Uncharted 4 is a perfect blend of exploration, puzzle solving, and intense combat. The climbing mechanics are smooth and intuitive, allowing Nathan to scale cliffs, swing from ropes, and navigate through complex environments with ease. The puzzles are cleverly designed, challenging you to think creatively and use your surroundings to progress. Combat is dynamic and fluid, with a mix of stealth and action elements. You can approach encounters in various ways, whether by sneaking past enemies or engaging in all-out gunfights. The improved AI makes battles more challenging and realistic, requiring strategic thinking and quick reflexes. Uncharted 4 also features some of the most cinematic set pieces in gaming history. The high-speed car chases, explosive firefights, and daring escapes are all choreographed to perfection, creating unforgettable moments of adrenaline-pumping action. These sequences are seamlessly integrated into the gameplay, making you feel like you're part of an epic adventure movie. If you're a fan of action-adventure games, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is a must-play. Its combination of groundbreaking visuals, engaging gameplay, and compelling storytelling set a new standard for the genre. Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh no, they're already here.
Let's talk about Rise of the Tomb Raider. Released in 2015, this game really raised the bar for action-adventure games with its amazing storytelling, jaw-dropping visuals, and smooth gameplay. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, you follow Lara Croft on a quest to find the lost city of Crysis and uncover the secret of immortality. The story is gripping and personal, diving deep into Lara's journey as an explorer and her battle against the sinister organization Trinity. I was hooked from the start, especially with all the historical and mythical elements woven into the plot. One thing that blew me away was the game's visuals. The environments are stunningly detailed, from the icy Siberian landscapes to lush forests and ancient tombs. The dynamic weather and realistic lighting made every scene come alive. I often found myself just standing around, taking in the breathtaking views. Lara herself is beautifully animated, with expressive features that make the story even more engaging. The gameplay is a perfect mix of exploration, combat, and puzzle solving. The tombs and crypts are some of my favorite parts. They're filled with challenging puzzles that make you think and use the environment to your advantage. Solving these puzzles felt incredibly satisfying, like being a real adventurer uncovering hidden secrets. Combat is smooth and fun. You can go stealthy with a bow and silent takedowns, or go all out with guns blazing. I love the flexibility in approaching different situations. The crafting system adds a cool layer of strategy too. You can make your own ammo, traps, and other gadgets from materials you find. It's a bit like survival mode, and it kept me constantly on my toes. Exploration in this game is deeply rewarding. There are so many hidden collectibles, side missions, and pieces of lore to find. I spent hours just roaming around, discovering new things and learning more about the world. The semi-open world design is perfect. It encourages you to go back and explore more previously visited areas with new tools and abilities to find every secret. The skill tree system is another great feature. You can customize Lara's abilities to fit your playstyle. Whether you're into stealth, combat, or exploration, there's a way to tailor Lara's skills to match. This made me want to replay the game and try out different builds. If you love action-adventure games with a strong focus on exploration and puzzles, Rise of the Tomb Raider is a must-play. The visuals are stunning, the story is captivating, and the gameplay is top-notch. Batman Arkham Knight. This game, released in 2015, brought a new level of polish and depth to superhero games, and it's one that left a lasting impression on me. In Batman Arkham Knight, you take on the role of the Dark Knight as he faces a new threat to Gotham City from the Scarecrow and the mysterious Arkham Knight. The story is intense and filled with twists and turns that keep you hooked from start to finish. As a huge Batman fan, seeing all the iconic villains and allies brought to life was a real treat. The graphics in Arkham Knight are phenomenal. Gotham City looks dark, gritty, and alive with incredible detail. The rain-soaked streets, the neon lights, and the shadows all add to the atmospheric feel of the game. I often found myself gliding from building to building, just taking in the breathtaking views of the city from above. Gameplay-wise, Arkham Knight is top-notch. The combat system, known as Free Flow, is fluid and responsive, allowing you to take on multiple enemies with a mix of punches, kicks, and gadgets. It's easy to pick up, but has enough depth to keep you mastering new moves and combos throughout the game. The stealth sections, where you use Batman's gadgets to take down foes quietly, are equally satisfying. One of the game's standout features is the Batmobile. For the first time in the series, you can drive Batman's iconic vehicle around Gotham. It's not just for transportation either. The Batmobile is equipped with weapons and can transform into a tank mode for intense combat situations. I had a blast chasing down criminals, solving puzzles, and battling drones in this versatile vehicle. The game's narrative is engaging and well written. The interactions between Batman and his allies, as well as his enemies, are filled with tension and emotion. The voice acting, particularly from Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker, is superb and adds a lot to the overall experience. Arkham Knight also excels in its side missions. There are plenty of things to do in Gotham, from stopping street crimes and rescuing hostages to solving the Riddler's challenging puzzles. These side missions are varied and fun, adding hours of gameplay and helping to flesh out the world. The attention to detail is another aspect where the game shines. From the detailed character models to the rich lore scattered throughout the city, everything is meticulously crafted to create an immersive Batman experience. The inclusion of iconic locations and references to Batman's extensive history made exploring the game a joy. If you're a fan of superhero games or just love a well-crafted action-adventure, Batman Arkham Knight is a game you shouldn't overlook. Its combination of stunning visuals, engaging story, and polished gameplay make it a standout title that was truly ahead of its time. Step into the cape and cowl of the Dark Knight and take on Gotham's greatest threats in this epic conclusion to the Arkham series. Ryse, Son of Rome. This game set a new standard for visual fidelity and cinematic storytelling when it was released. Ryse, Son of Rome puts you in the sandals of Marius Titus, a Roman soldier seeking revenge for the murder of his family. The game's narrative is gripping, filled with dramatic moments and epic battles. The story unfolds like a blockbuster movie, complete with stunning cutscenes and emotional depth. What truly set Ryse apart at its time was its groundbreaking graphics. The level of detail in the character models, environments, and animations was astonishing. The game's depiction of ancient Rome and its battles were incredibly lifelike, showcasing the power of the Xbox One upon its release. And the facial animations and motion capture performances brought the characters to life in a way that was unprecedented. The combat system in Ryse is both brutal and satisfying. It focuses on timing and precision, allowing you to execute a series of fluid and cinematic moves. The execution sequences in particular were a highlight, with Marius dispatching enemies in visually stunning ways. While some criticized the combat for being repetitive, it was undeniably engaging and visually impressive. Ryse also integrated smart use of the Kinect for voice commands, which, while not essential, added a layer of immersion. you could command your troops or call for volleys of arrows using your voice, enhancing the feeling of being a Roman general. Ryse Son of Rome was undeniably ahead of its time in terms of graphics and cinematic presentation. It pushed the boundaries of what was possible in video game storytelling and visual design. If you haven't experienced it yet, it's worth playing to see how far ahead it was in its ambition and execution. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Released in 2015, this game redefined the RPG genre with its vast open world, intricate storytelling, and deep character development. In The Witcher 3, you play as Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter on a quest to find his adopted daughter Ciri, who is fleeing from the mysterious and otherworldly Wild Hunt. The game's narrative is one of its strongest points, filled with rich lore, memorable characters, and morally complex choices that significantly impact the story and world around you. The open world of The Witcher 3 is breathtakingly detailed and immersive. From the bustling streets of Novigrad and the war-torn fields of Velen to the picturesque landscapes of Skellige, each region is beautifully crafted and feels alive. The game features a dynamic weather system and a day-night cycle that enhance the realism and immersion. One of the most remarkable aspects of The Witcher 3 is its quest design. The side quests are as compelling as the main story, often featuring complex narratives and character arcs that could stand alone as separate stories. These quests are not just filler content, but integral parts of the game world that add depth and richness to the overall experience.
Vampire.
As for the combat, so it can feel a bit clunky at first and might take some time getting used to. As for the gameplay, so Geralt can use a variety of weapons, magic signs, and alchemical potions to defeat a wide array of enemies. The combat system requires strategy and skill, especially on higher difficulties, making each encounter engaging and rewarding. The game also introduced a unique card game called Gwent, which became so popular that it was later developed into a standalone game. Gwent adds an extra layer of depth and fun, offering a strategic minigame that players can enjoy alongside the main adventure. Visually, The Witcher 3 set a new standard for RPGs. The detailed character models, lush environments, and stunning visual effects create an immersive and visually striking world. The game's soundtrack is equally impressive, with a hauntingly beautiful score that complements the epic narrative. If you're a fan of RPGs and have not yet experienced The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, it's a game you shouldn't overlook. Its combination of storytelling, world building, and gameplay mechanics set a new benchmark for the genre and continue to influence games today. The Order 1886.
Understood.
Released in 2015, this game was a showcase of technical prowess and cinematic storytelling that pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the PlayStation 4. In The Order 1886, you play as Sir Galahad, a member of an elite order of knights tasked with protecting humanity from supernatural threats in an alternate history Victorian London. The game's story is steeped in rich lore, blending historical elements with fantastical creatures and advanced technology, creating a unique and immersive world. The visuals in The Order 1886 were groundbreaking at the time. The game features stunningly detailed character models, lifelike animations, and photorealistic environments. The attention to detail is astounding, from the intricate textures on clothing and weapons to the atmospheric lighting that brings the foggy streets of London to life. The seamless transition between cutscenes and gameplay creates a truly cinematic experience. One of the game's standout features is its cinematic presentation. The Order 1886 plays like an interactive movie with a strong emphasis on storytelling and character development. The cutscenes are beautifully crafted and well acted, drawing you into the narrative and making you feel like you're part of an epic film. The voice acting and motion capture performances are top notch, adding depth and emotion to the characters.
Here, give me a hand with this one.
The gameplay is a mix of third-person shooting, melee combat, and quick-time events. The shooting mechanics are solid, with a variety of unique weapons that fit the game's steampunk aesthetic. From powerful rifles to lightning-based guns, each weapon feels satisfying to use. The cover-based shooting system is smooth and intuitive, allowing for tactical and engaging combat. While the game received criticism for its relatively short length and linear structure, It excels in creating a focused and polished experience. The linear design allows for tight pacing and a consistently high level of visual and narrative quality. The immersive world and compelling story make every moment memorable.
The gate is open. We have a way through.
Exploration and environmental storytelling are also key aspects of the game. The richly detailed environments are filled with lore and hidden details that add depth to the world. Taking the time to explore and find collectible items helps to flesh out the story and background of the Order and its enemies. If you appreciate games that push the boundaries of visual fidelity and cinematic storytelling, The Order 1886 is a game you shouldn't overlook. Its combination of stunning graphics, engaging narrative, and immersive world building set a new standard for what video games could achieve. Shenmue 1 and 2. Next up on our list are Shenmue 1 and 2. Released in 1999 and 2001 respectively, these games were pioneers in the open world genre, offering a level of detail and immersion that was unprecedented at the time. In Shenmue 1, you play as Ryo Hazuki, a young martial artist on a quest to avenge his father's murder. The story begins in the fictional town of Yokosuka, Japan, where Ryo's journey starts. The narrative is deeply engaging, with a mix of mystery, martial arts, and cultural exploration. The sequel, Shenmue 2, continues Ryo's quest, taking him to Hong Kong and beyond, expanding the story and the world. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Shenmue was its open world design. The game featured highly detailed environments that felt alive. NPCs had their own daily routines, and you could interact with almost everything in the world, from vending machines and arcade games to shops and random objects. This level of interaction created an immersive experience that made the world feel real. Shenmue also introduced a real-time day-night cycle and dynamic weather systems. Time progressed realistically and the weather changed unpredictably, adding another layer of immersion. These features were ahead of their time and have since become staples in many open-world games. The gameplay in Shenmue combined exploration, combat, and mini-games. The combat system was inspired by Virtua Fighter, allowing for fluid and complex martial arts battles. The game also featured quick-time events, QTs, where you had to press buttons at the right time during action sequences. This kept the gameplay varied and engaging. One of the unique aspects of Shenmue was its focus on daily life and routine. You could take on part-time jobs, practice your martial arts, and interact with a wide range of characters. This focus on the mundane aspects of life made the world feel more grounded and real, enhancing the overall narrative experience. The visuals in Shenmue were stunning for their time. The detailed character models, realistic environments, and smooth animations were a major leap forward in game graphics. Shenmue 2 expanded on everything that made the first game great. It introduced larger and more diverse environments, a deeper combat system, and even more intricate storytelling. The sequel took Ryo's journey to new heights, offering players an even richer and more immersive experience. If you're a fan of open-world games and appreciate a rich, detailed narrative, Shenmue 1 and 2 are games you shouldn't overlook. Their pioneering mechanics, immersive worlds, and deep storytelling set new standards for the genre and continue to influence games today. Bioshock. Released in 2007 by Irrational Games, Bioshock was a revolutionary title that redefined the first-person shooter genre with its immersive storytelling, unique setting, and innovative gameplay mechanics. In Bioshock, you play as Jack, a survivor of a plane crash who finds himself in the underwater city of Rapture. Built by the enigmatic Andrew Ryan, Rapture was intended to be a utopia free from government control, but it has since descended into chaos. As you explore the city, you uncover the dark secrets behind its downfall and must navigate through its dangerous inhabitants known as splicers. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Bioshock was its setting. Rapture is a beautifully designed, Art Deco-inspired city that feels both eerie and captivating. The attention to detail in the environment, from the dilapidated buildings to the ambient sound design, creates an atmosphere that is both immersive and haunting. The visual and audio design work together to make Rapture a character in its own right, full of mystery and danger. Bioshock's storytelling was ahead of its time, utilizing environmental storytelling and audio logs to reveal the history and lore of Rapture. The game's narrative is deeply philosophical, exploring themes of free will, objectivism, and the nature of humanity. The famous twist involving the phrase, "Would you kindly," remains one of the most memorable moments in gaming history, showcasing the power of interactive storytelling. The gameplay in Bioshock is a unique blend of first-person shooting and role-playing elements. You can customize your playstyle using plasmids, which grant you various powers such as telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and the ability to control machines. The system allows for creative combat and puzzle solving, as you can use the environment and your abilities to outsmart enemies. Bioshock also introduced the concept of moral choices with the Little Sisters. You can choose to either rescue or harvest them for Adam, a valuable resource needed to upgrade your abilities. These decisions affect the game's ending, adding a layer of ethical complexity to your actions. The AI and combat mechanics were innovative for their time. Enemies react dynamically to your actions, and the game encourages you to experiment with different strategies and combinations of weapons and plasmids. The combination of shooting, exploration, and puzzle solving keeps the gameplay engaging and varied. If you're a fan of first-person shooters with deep narratives and rich, immersive worlds, Bioshock is a game you shouldn't overlook. Its combination of innovative gameplay, compelling story, and unforgettable setting makes it a true masterpiece that was well ahead of its time. Red Faction. This game was revolutionary for its groundbreaking use of destructible environments and introduced new gameplay mechanics that influenced many future titles. In Red Faction, you play as Parker, a miner on Mars who becomes embroiled in a rebellion against the oppressive Ultra Corporation. The game's story, inspired by classic science fiction themes, involves uncovering corporate conspiracies, battling security forces, and liberating the oppressed workers of Mars. The narrative is engaging and well-paced, providing a strong backdrop for the action-packed gameplay. One of the most innovative features of Red Faction was its geomod technology, which allowed for real-time destruction of environments. This was a game changer as it enabled players to alter the game world in ways that had never been possible before. You could blow holes in walls, collapse structures, and create new paths using explosives. This level of environmental interactivity added a new layer of strategy and immersion, making every encounter unique. The gameplay in Red Faction is a mix of first-person shooting, exploration, and puzzle solving. The shooting mechanics are solid, with a variety of weapons that feel powerful and satisfying to use. The ability to destroy parts of the environment added tactical depth to combat, allowing for creative solutions to problems and dynamic engagements with enemies. Exploration is another key aspect of the game. The environments on Mars are diverse, ranging from industrial mining facilities and underground tunnels to high-tech laboratories and open Martian landscapes. The game's level design encourages exploration and experimentation, rewarding players who think outside the box. Visually, Red Faction was impressive for its time. The game's environments were detailed and immersive, with a distinct Martian aesthetic that set it apart from other shooters. The destructible environments and physics-based interactions were visually striking, enhancing the overall experience. If you're a fan of first-person shooters that offer something different from the norm, Red Faction is a game you shouldn't overlook. Its pioneering use of destructible environments and solid gameplay mechanics made it a standout title that was truly ahead of its time. Life is Strange.
Chloe, slow down! Wait for me!
Life is Strange is one of those rare games that pulls you in and makes you feel every emotional beat. You play as Max Caulfield, a high school girl who discovers she has the ability to rewind time, but it's not some superhero story. It's this intimate, deeply personal journey about friendship, growing up, and dealing with choices that feel all too real. The setting, a small coastal town with its own secrets and mysteries, makes it feel grounded, like you're right there with Max facing the highs and lows of teenage life. The real magic of Life is Strange lies in its characters and choices. The friendship between Max and Chloe is the heart of the story, and it's raw, complicated, and just beautifully done. The game puts you in tough situations where every decision feels like it has a genuine impact, and it doesn't shy away from tackling heavy themes like loss, identity, and mental health. Every choice you make changes the story, and you're constantly weighing the cost of each decision, knowing that sometimes there's no right answer.
20 years, you just saw it. No, I saw it.
And that rewind mechanic, it's more than just a gameplay gimmick. It's a way for Max to explore her own regrets, to wonder about what if in a way that's painfully relatable. The art style, the music, the pacing, it all comes together to create this moody, atmospheric experience that just sticks with you. Life is Strange isn't just a game, it's an emotional journey that feels like it was made to connect with people. It's a reminder of how powerful video game storytelling can be, capturing the messiness of life and the weight of every little decision. For me, it's one of the most impactful games of the last decade, and it's a must-play for anyone who loves stories that hit you right in the heart.
These visions, this power. I keep expecting to wake up one more time.
Quantum Break. Quantum Break is one of those games that takes big swings and really commits to being different. It's a blend of action-packed gameplay and live-action storytelling that actually works, pulling you into this mind-bending time travel story that keeps you guessing. You play as Jack Joyce, a guy who accidentally gains the power to manipulate time after a science experiment goes wrong, and from there, it's this wild ride of fractured timelines, intense shootouts, and massive conspiracies. The time manipulation powers are what really make this game shine. Freezing enemies in place, dodging bullets in a blink, or creating time shields, it's ridiculously satisfying, and the combat feels fast and dynamic in a way that's just plain fun. The game lets you get creative with each encounter, and once you start chaining together your powers, it's hard not to feel like a total badass. But Quantum Break isn't just about the gameplay, it's also a full-on cinematic experience. In between each act, you get live-action episodes that dive deeper into the story, exploring the motivations of the villains and giving you more context for the chaos. It's ambitious, and sure, it's a bit of a gamble, but it's cool to see a game trying something this bold. The story itself is layered, with themes about fate, power, and how far people are willing to go to rewrite their own future. It's got twists, turns, and just enough sci-fi craziness to keep you hooked. Quantum Break may not have been for everyone, but for me, it was a standout experiment, a game that's unafraid to mix storytelling and gameplay in a way that feels unique and memorable. Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is one of those games that just nails it. Fluid movement, tight combat, and a campaign that's way better than anyone expected. You play as Jack Cooper, a soldier who's thrown into a partnership with BT, an advanced Titan with a personality that honestly makes him one of the most memorable parts of the game. From the start, you're dropped into intense firefights, but it's the connection between Jack and BT that gives the game heart and makes it feel more than just a shooter. What makes Titanfall 2 so standout is its level design. There's one mission in particular, affecting cause, where you're literally jumping back and forth through time. It's genius, and it's a level that's gone down as one of the best in any shooter. The game constantly mixes things up, giving you wall-running parkour sections, insane mech battles, and puzzles that keep you on your toes. The pacing is perfect, and it never feels repetitive. And the multiplayer, still some of the best out there. It's fast, it's dynamic, and the pilot VS. Titan gameplay makes every match feel like a new experience. It's sad that Titanfall 2 never got the attention it deserved, because honestly, this game has everything you want from a shooter: solid mechanics, innovative design, and a campaign that sticks with you. For anyone who loves FPS games, Titanfall 2 is a must-play. It's one of those rare games that feels like it was made with passion, pushing boundaries and delivering an experience that's as fun as it is memorable. Dishonored. Dishonored is one of those games that grabs you right out of the gate. The world, the story, the powers, it all clicks almost immediately, and before you know it, you're deep in the grimy streets of Dunwall plotting your next move. You play as Corvo Attano, a bodyguard framed for the murder of the Empress, and from the first few minutes, the game throws you into a tense world of betrayal, revenge, and political intrigue. What really hooks you is the freedom it gives. After the intro, it's like, here's the mission, now figure it out, and that's where the obsession starts. Do you sneak through a guard's window, choke out every enemy, and leave without a trace? Or do you go in loud, summoning rats and blasting everyone in your way? The game doesn't judge, it lets you approach missions however you want, and experimenting with different playstyles is half the fun. The powers are where Dishonored really shines. Blink is probably the coolest ability right off the bat. It's this short-range teleport that lets you zip around rooftops, through windows, or past guards in an instant. Once you get the hang of it, it feels like you're gliding through the game. But there's more. You can summon swarms of rats, possess people and animals, or even stop time entirely. And the best part, you can combine these abilities in creative ways to make every encounter feel unique. Then there's the world. Dunwall is dark, oppressive, and fascinating. It's got this Victorian steampunk vibe with towering buildings, plague-ridden streets, and hidden secrets everywhere. You'll find yourself going off the beaten path just to explore and see what you can uncover. The game rewards curiosity, whether it's a hidden rune to upgrade your abilities or a side story tucked away in a journal entry. The story pulls you in too. It's not just about getting revenge, it's about choices. Do you spare your enemies or take them out? Every decision has consequences, not just for you but for the world around you. The more chaos you cause, the darker the world becomes, and it all builds toward different endings based on how you played. Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest isn't just a game, it's an emotional journey wrapped in some of the most beautiful art and music you'll ever experience. From the moment you dive into it, the world pulls you in with its stunning visuals, heartfelt story, and tight platforming that'll have you hooked within the first hour. But fair warning, this one hits hard. It's one of those games that makes you feel something deep before you've even gotten used to the controls. You play as Ori, a little guardian spirit, in a forest that's been devastated by a terrible storm. The whole game is about restoring life to the forest, but it's not just about running through beautiful scenery, it's about overcoming obstacles, making tough jumps, and figuring out how to move forward when everything seems stacked against you. The platforming is tight and responsive, which makes every leap and wall climb feel like a small victory. And when you finally pull off that perfect sequence of moves, it feels amazing. But it's not just the mechanics that keep you hooked, it's the feels. Right off the bat, Ori and the Blind Forest hits you with an emotional gut punch that sets the tone for the rest of the game. There's very little dialogue, but the story is told through beautiful animations and music that somehow manage to say more than words ever could. You'll find yourself emotionally invested in Ori's journey, rooting for this little spirit to save the forest, even when the odds seem impossible. The visuals are on another level. Every inch of the game looks like a painting in motion, with glowing forests, misty swamps, and eerie caverns that feel alive. Each new area feels distinct and handcrafted, inviting you to explore every corner. And exploration is a huge part of the game. There are secret areas, upgrades, and collectibles tucked away in every nook and cranny. The more you explore, the stronger Ori becomes, which makes revisiting old areas with new abilities super satisfying. The game isn't easy though. The platforming challenges ramp up fast, and there are sections where you'll be retrying a lot, especially during escape sequences that demand quick reflexes and perfect timing. But here's the thing, it never feels frustrating. Every death is a lesson, and when you finally nail that tricky jump or outrun that rising water, it feels like a genuine achievement. The game respects your time, making every challenge rewarding without dragging things out. Deus Ex Human Revolution. Deus Ex Human Revolution hooks you almost immediately with its slick, futuristic vibe and the feeling that every decision you make matters. It's part RPG, part first-person shooter, and part immersive sim, and the way it blends all that together makes it hard to put down once you start. You play as Adam Jensen, a former cop turned security specialist who gets augmented with cybernetic implants after a brutal attack leaves him barely alive. From that moment, you're thrown into a world full of conspiracies, shady corporations, and questions about what it means to be human. What gets you obsessed fast is the sheer freedom the game gives you. Every mission feels like a puzzle with multiple solutions, and how you approach it is entirely up to you. You can hack your way through locked doors, crawl through vents, talk your way past guards, or just go in guns blazing. The game doesn't force you down any particular path. Whether you play it stealthy or loud, everything feels viable, and it's super satisfying to figure out the approach that works best for you. The augmentations are a game changer, literally. As you level up, you unlock all kinds of abilities like cloaking, enhanced hacking, and strength upgrades that let you punch through walls. But you can't unlock everything, so you have to build Jensen in a way that matches your playstyle. Will you be a master hacker, slipping through systems and avoiding fights? Or do you want to upgrade your combat skills and take down enemies with brutal efficiency? The choice is yours, and the game does a great job of making every choice feel meaningful. And man, the world building is top tier. The game is set in the near future where cybernetic augmentation is becoming mainstream, but not without controversy. Some people see it as the next step in human evolution, while others think it's a dangerous step toward inequality and corporate control. The cities you explore, like Detroit and Hengsha, feel alive with detail, and you'll find newspapers, emails, and conversations that give you insight into the social and political tensions brewing beneath the surface. It's not just window dressing, it pulls you deeper into the story and makes the world feel believable. The story itself is packed with intrigue. As Jensen, you're trying to figure out who attacked your company and why, but as you dig deeper, you uncover layers of conspiracies that tie into global events. There are no simple villains here. Everyone you meet has their own motivations, and the game forces you to make tough decisions that have real consequences. The dialogue system is fantastic too. You can talk your way out of confrontations, but only if you pick the right responses based on what you've learned about the person you're speaking to. And the game's vibe, it's got that perfect cyberpunk aesthetic, lots of black and gold, neon signs, rain-soaked streets, and high-tech gadgets everywhere. The soundtrack is moody and atmospheric, giving every moment this sense of tension, whether you're sneaking through a corporate facility or just exploring the streets. LA Noire.
I'm not lying! She got up and left, that was it!
Man, LA Noire is one of those games that pulls you in before you even realize what's happening. You play as Cole Phelps, a World War II veteran turned detective, working your way through the ranks of the LAPD in 1947 Los Angeles. But it's not just another open-world crime game, it's all about piecing together clues, interrogating suspects, and solving cases. Think of it like a detective drama where every little detail matters. And yeah, it can be slow at times, but that's part of what makes it so damn immersive. The first thing that'll hook you is the vibe. The game nails that post-war, noir atmosphere, the jazz music, the trench coats, the cigarette smoke, and the way the sun sets overlays grimy streets. It's like stepping into an old-school detective movie. Every corner of the city feels alive, whether it's the busy streets, shady bars, or crime scenes you stumble upon. It's not just the setting, it's the little things. You'll drive through neighborhoods with 1940s radio tunes playing in the background, and it feels real in a way most games don't capture. The cases are what really draw you in. You'll start small, handling things like petty thefts and hit and runs, but before long, you're thrown into murder investigations and tangled conspiracies. Each case plays out like an episode of a detective show. You visit crime scenes, gather evidence, question witnesses, and try to figure out what the hell really happened. The interrogations, those are the heart of the game. You'll sit across from suspects, watch their facial expressions closely, and decide if they're telling the truth or hiding something. And man, the motion capture is crazy good. You can see every little twitch and nervous glance, and it makes you feel like a real detective trying to read people.
Give me something, Velasco, or I'll take you back to the cells and tell the whole station you're a child molester. How long do you think you'll last?
Okay, I hear you.
But here's the thing you're gonna screw up. Sometimes you'll think you've nailed someone in a lie, only for the game to say, nope, wrong call, and when you get it wrong, it hurts like you just let a criminal walk free. But that's what makes it so engaging. It's not about always being right, it's about learning from your mistakes and getting better at reading people and piecing things together. It gives the whole game this trial and error feeling that's frustrating in the best way. The story gets surprisingly deep too. Phelps isn't just a cookie-cutter hero hero, he's complicated, and as you progress, you start peeling back layers of his past. The more you climb the ranks, the messier things get. The game isn't afraid to dive into some dark themes from police corruption to post-war trauma, and as much as you're trying to do good, it becomes pretty clear that not everything is as black and white as it seems. And yeah, the open world isn't as packed with stuff to do as other games, but honestly, that's not the point. It's more about the experience driving to crime scenes, chatting with your partner, and soaking in that Noire atmosphere. The pacing is slow, but it works. It gives you time to think, to put pieces together, and really get into the mindset of a detective. The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us grabs you right from the opening scene and doesn't let go. It's a gritty, noir-style mystery set in a world where fairy tale characters like Snow White and the Big Bad Wolf are living hidden lives in New York City. You play as Bigby Wolf, the sheriff of Fabletown, trying to keep order while investigating a brutal murder that's way more complicated than it seems. The story hooks you fast. It's dark, filled with twists, and every character you meet feels layered like they've all got something to hide. You'll be making tough dialogue choices constantly, and the game doesn't waste time that lets you know early on that your decisions have weight. Say the wrong thing, punch the wrong person, or trust the wrong character, and things spiral. But that's half the fun, figuring out what kind of Bigby you want to be, a ruthless enforcer or a reluctant protector. The atmosphere is incredible. Fabletown is this seedy, run-down part of the city, drenched in neon lights and cigarettes, with characters struggling to survive. It's the perfect setting for a murder mystery, and the comic book art style makes it feel unique and alive. The soundtrack, moody and atmospheric, sets the tone perfectly for late-night investigations and shady bar confrontations. The gameplay is light. It's mostly dialogue, quick time events, and exploration, but it works because the focus is on storytelling. Every choice, every interaction makes you feel like you're shaping the narrative, and it's hard not to get wrapped up in the drama. And trust me, the cliffhangers will have you binging through the episodes like a TV series you just can't stop watching. If you're into narrative-driven games with strong characters and a good mystery, The Wolf Among Us is an easy game to get obsessed with. It's gripping, emotional, and full of those oh shit moments that'll keep you thinking long after the credits roll. Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor hooks you fast. You play as Talion, a ranger fused with the spirit of an ancient elf lord, out for revenge against Sauron's forces in the gritty, brutal world of Middle-earth. Right from the start, the game makes it clear this isn't some slow build-up. It throws you into combat with orcs, gives you cool supernatural abilities, and sets you loose in an open world full of enemies waiting to get sliced apart. What really gets you obsessed is the Nemesis system. Every orc captain you encounter has a unique personality, strengths, and weaknesses, and if one kills you, they rise in power and remember you the next time you meet. It's personal, and it's brilliant. The system makes every fight feel like it matters. That one orc who somehow got lucky and killed you. Yeah, he'll taunt you the next time you see him, and beating him down will feel so good. Or maybe he escapes, ranks up again, and becomes your worst nightmare. The dynamic between you and these enemies makes every encounter exciting. Combat is fast and brutal, like a mix between Batman Arkham and Assassin's Creed. You'll counter, slash, and execute enemies with style. But it's not just about combat. You'll sneak through camps, dominate orcs to fight for you, and unlock new abilities that make you feel like a force of nature. It's the perfect balance between stealth, strategy, and pure chaos. The world itself isn't massive, but it's packed with things to do. Whether it's freeing slaves, hunting captains, or chasing down collectibles, there's always something that pulls you into the next objective. It nails that open world flow where you tell yourself, I'll just do this one thing, and suddenly hours have gone by. Mass Effect Trilogy. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. If you haven't experienced Mass Effect yet, what are you doing with your life? This trilogy is basically the gold standard for how to do a sci-fi RPG series, right? Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a game where your decisions actually matter across not just one, but 3 games? Yeah, 3. You play as Commander Shepard, and I swear, Few games let you feel so personally involved in shaping not just your character but the fate of the entire galaxy. We're talking about making decisions that have real weight, and trust me, some of them are brutal. There are moments where you'll stop and just stare at the screen, questioning everything you've done up to that point. But that's part of what makes it so good, it gets under your skin. And I think one of the most impressive things about Mass Effect is how it balances a story that's epic in scale while also being deeply personal. Sure, you're fighting to save the galaxy from the Reapers, these ancient machines that basically want to wipe out all sentient life, but the heart of the game is in its characters. And the combat evolves across the trilogy, and by the time you hit Mass Effect 3, the shooting and biotic powers combo feels just right. It's not perfect in the first game, it's a bit clunky, but even that adds to its charm. You're there for the story and the world building, and the combat eventually becomes second nature. Oh, and speaking of world building, Mass Effect throws you into a universe so rich with lore that you'll find yourself reading up on the political structure of alien races you've never heard of before. That codex, it's like a sci-fi encyclopedia, and you won't even mind because it's that fascinating. Every planet, every species feels like it has its own history, its own culture, and you're just dropped in the middle of this living, breathing galaxy. The Mass Effect trilogy is just special. It's a perfect blend of storytelling, character development, and player agency that hasn't really been replicated since. Few games make you feel like your choices have such far-reaching consequences, and even fewer can pull it off across 3 full games. Whether you're commanding a ship, exploring alien worlds, or just trying to keep your crew alive, the Mass Effect trilogy is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. You owe it to yourself to experience this. Dying Light.
I could use your help. I'm not a murderer.
Dying Light takes the traditional zombie FPS campaign and cranks it up by throwing parkour into the mix, making it one of the most intense single-player experiences out there. You're Kyle Crane, an undercover agent dropped into a quarantined city overrun by the infected. Your mission? Infiltrate and survive. But it doesn't take long before you realize that the infected aren't the only things you need to worry about. The game brilliantly mixes fast-paced parkour movement with brutal combat, and it never lets you feel completely safe. The parkour system is a game changer. You're not just running from zombies, you're leaping over buildings, vaulting fences, and sliding under obstacles, all while trying to stay one step ahead of the horde. It makes exploring the city of Heron both exhilarating and terrifying. The open world is your playground, but once the sun sets, the real terror begins. Nighttime in Dying Light is when things go from run for your life to pray you survive. As the more aggressive, faster volatiles come out to hunt, the tension is crazy and you'll feel your heart pounding as you try to find safety before darkness fully takes over. Combat is brutal and visceral. Whether you're smashing a zombie's head in with a makeshift bat or using a machete to slice through hordes of infected, every hit feels impactful. We've got a wide variety of weapons, and each can be modified to deal extra damage or add elemental effects like fire or electricity. And it's not just about fighting. The infected human enemies are just as dangerous, forcing you to think strategically in combat situations. What sets Dying Light apart is how it makes movement and exploration feel just as important as the combat. You're constantly scavenging for supplies, crafting new gear, and upgrading your skills, which all adds to the tension of survival. The more you explore, the more you unlock, and the deeper you get into the story. Speaking of which, while it's a zombie apocalypse narrative at its core, it keeps you hooked with unexpected twists, moral choices, and a cast of characters that aren't just trying to survive, they're trying to figure out what it means to still be human in a world that's falling apart. The game's setting is gorgeous in a bleak kind of way. Heron is detailed and atmospheric, from the decaying city streets to the abandoned buildings, and the way the environment shifts between day and night adds a layer of danger that few games pull off this well. Every time the sun sets, you're faced with a choice: risk it all for a mission or hunker down and wait for daylight. If you love first-person action with a survival twist, Dying Light is one of the best FPS campaigns out there. The combination of parkour, brutal combat, and the terrifying shift between day and night makes every moment feel tense and rewarding. It's not just about surviving the infected, it's about learning how to thrive in a world that's always trying to kill you. Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is the kind of game that takes you on a ride and never lets go. You're thrown into the middle of a tropical paradise that's gone straight to hell, and it's up to you, playing as Jason Brody, to figure out how to survive. What starts as a vacation with friends turns into a nightmare when you're captured by one of the craziest, most unpredictable villains you'll ever meet in a game. Right from the start, you know this isn't going to be a typical island adventure. The open world gameplay is what makes Far Cry 3 so damn good. You're on this massive island, and the game doesn't just hand you missions. You can do whatever the hell you want. Want to take out an enemy camp with stealth? Go for it. Prefer to run in guns blazing? That works too. The game gives you all the tools, and it's up to you how to handle every situation. And trust me, the freedom feels incredible. You're crafting weapons, hunting animals for upgrades, and using everything the environment gives you to survive. But let's talk about Vaas. This dude is insane. He's one of the best villains in gaming, hands down. His unpredictability and the way he messes with Jason makes every encounter with him feel intense. He's the kind of character who steals the show every time he's on screen. You know something crazy is about to go down. It's not just about the big action moments he gets in your head, and it makes the story so much more engaging.
Oh, Jesus.
The island itself is beautiful but deadly. You'll be exploring lush jungles, diving into deep blue waters, and climbing mountains, but danger is lurking everywhere. Whether it's wild animals attacking out of nowhere or enemy patrols trying to hunt you down, you're never really safe. And that's what makes the game so fun. There's always something happening, and you've got to stay sharp. Far Cry 3's mix of action, exploration, and a gripping story makes it one of the best FPS campaigns out there. The way the game blends intense firefights with quieter moments of survival and exploration is perfect, and honestly, it's just a blast to play. The story's got twists, the characters are memorable, and the gameplay gives you so much freedom that you'll lose hours just getting lost in the world. If you're into FPS games where you can approach things your way, Far Cry 3 is an absolute must-play. It's got action, tension, and some wild moments that you won't forget. Just be ready once you dive in, you won't want to leave the island. Doom 2016. Doom 2016 is pure, chaotic fun. There's no complicated plot or deep moral choices. It's just you, a badass space marine, and a whole lot of demons that need to be blasted back to hell. From the moment you start, it's clear that this game doesn't mess around. You wake up, grab a shotgun, and get straight to tearing through hordes of demons like it's your damn job. And honestly, that's exactly what makes it so fun. The combat in Doom is fast, brutal, and insanely satisfying. You're constantly moving, running, jumping, dodging while unloading round after round into whatever demonic nightmare is in front of you. Standing still is basically a death sentence, so the game forces you to stay aggressive. The glory kills are some of the most brutal finishers you'll ever see, and they keep the pace high since you get health back every time you pull one off. It's this rhythm of shoot, dodge, punch, repeat that makes the game feel so damn good to play. The weapons are straight up insane. From the classic double-barreled shotgun to the devastating BFG, literally the big effing gun. Every weapon feels powerful and satisfying to use. And the game doesn't hold back on the ammo either. It's like they want you to go nuts. You're not just mowing down demons, you're doing it in style, and it never gets old. Visually, the game nails that hellish vibe. You're on Mars, sure, but once the demons start pouring in from hell, everything gets crazy. Fire, blood, metal, everything feels like it's straight out of a heavy metal album cover. The levels are packed with secrets, upgrades, and just enough variety to keep things interesting, but let's be real, you're here to rip and tear through demons, and that's exactly what the game delivers. The soundtrack deserves a shout out too. It's this intense industrial metal score that perfectly matches the speed and chaos of the gameplay. It amps you up and makes every firefight feel like the most intense thing ever. You'll be headbanging along while blasting demons into pieces, and it just feels right. If you're looking for a game that doesn't waste time with unnecessary fluff and gets straight to the action, Doom 2016 is perfect. It's fast, brutal, and damn fun from start to finish. No deep storylines, no complicated mechanics, just pure, unfiltered demon-slaying madness. And sometimes that's all you really need. Singularity. Singularity might not have hit the same level of fame as other FPS games, but damn, it deserves a spot on this list. It's got everything you want in a single-player campaign: time manipulation, insane weapons, and a storyline that keeps you hooked from start to finish. You play as Captain Renko, a soldier who stumbles upon a secret Russian experiment gone horribly wrong on a remote island, and things get crazy real fast. The game's biggest hook is the time manipulation device TMD. This thing lets you control time in some really wild ways, aging objects to dust, restoring things to their original state, or even aging enemies into nothing but skeletons. You can mess with the environment, solve puzzles, and completely change the flow of combat with this one device. It's a blast to use and gives the game a unique feel compared to most shooters. Combat in Singularity is fast and chaotic. You've got your standard guns, sure, but once you start using the TMD, the fights get way more interesting. You're freezing enemies in time, rewinding objects, and turning the battlefield into your playground. It's a crazy mix of shooting and time-bending action, and when you pull off a perfectly timed TMD move, damn, it's satisfying. The story is another strong point. It's got a cool mix of sci-fi and Cold War vibes, with lots of twists and turns as you jump between different time periods. The narrative keeps you guessing, and it's full of those what the hell just happened moments that make you want to keep pushing through. It's like a mix of Bioshock and Half-Life, but with its own fresh spin. And while Singularity doesn't have the most cutting-edge graphics by today's standards, it nails the atmosphere. The island feels eerie and dangerous, like something terrible happened there, which it totally did. Between the crumbling ruins of old Soviet labs and the weird time anomalies scattered everywhere, the world pulls you in and keeps you on edge. If you're looking for an underrated gem with a cool twist on FPS gameplay, Singularity is definitely worth checking out. It's got a solid story, fun mechanics, and plenty of intense moments that will keep you hooked. Time manipulation, wild weapons, and a gripping plot. Yeah, this one's a must-play. Halo Reach. Halo Reach is the kind of FPS campaign that just sticks with you. It's intense, emotional, and a bit of a gut punch for longtime fans of the series. You play as a member of Noble Team, a group of Spartans fighting to protect the planet Reach from the Covenant invasion. And if you know your Halo lore, you already know this isn't going to end well. That sense of looming tragedy hangs over the entire campaign, giving the whole thing a different vibe from other Halo games. The gameplay is classic Halo tight, responsive, and just damn fun. You've got all the iconic weapons at your disposal, from the trusty assault rifle to the badass energy sword, and each firefight feels like a high-stakes battle for survival. But what makes Reach stand out is how it balances those big action set pieces with quieter, more personal moments. You're not just a one-man army here, you're part of a team, and the game makes you care about each of the characters as you fight alongside them. Noble Team is really what gives this campaign its heart. Each member has their own personality and backstory, and you get attached to them as you move through the campaign. When things start going south, it hits hard, and the final moments of the game. Man, they're some of the most emotional in the entire Halo series. You know what's coming, but it doesn't make it any easier.
We're going down. Look your armor, Spartan!
Visually, Reach is stunning, especially for its time. The battle-scarred landscapes, the massive Covenant warships hovering overhead, and the brutal firefights all come together to create a sense of scale that feels epic. The game takes you from ground-pounding combat to aerial dogfights in space, mixing things up enough to keep you constantly on your toes. The pacing is perfect too. One moment you're in an all-out war zone, the next you're sneaking behind enemy lines or defending a base from an overwhelming Covenant attack. Each mission feels distinct, and it keeps the action fresh while still driving the story forward. And the multiplayer, well, that's a whole other level of fun, but the campaign is where Reach really shines. If you're a fan of Halo or just love a good FPS campaign, Halo Reach is an absolute must-play. It's got everything: tight combat, a gripping story, and an emotional punch that hits hard. It's not just about fighting the Covenant, it's about sacrifice, loyalty, and knowing when the fight is bigger than you. This is Halo at its best. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is one of those games that deserved way more love than it got. It dropped back in 2012, and while it came out around the same time as heavyweights like Skyrim, this RPG did its own thing, and honestly, it did it damn well. It's got one of the most satisfying combat systems you'll ever experience in an open world RPG. If you're into fluid, fast-paced action where every swing of your sword or blast of magic feels powerful, Amalur will spoil you. The world itself is vast, colorful, and packed with lore, designed by none other than R.A. Salvatore, the fantasy author behind the Drizzt Do'Urden novels. The game has this unique mix of high fantasy and vibrant visuals, setting it apart from the usual dark, gritty tones we see in open world RPGs. From lush forests to dangerous caverns, the environments just feel alive, and exploring them never gets old. What really makes Amalur underrated though is the freedom it gives you. You can completely respec your character on the fly, switching from a sneaky rogue to a spell-slinging sorcerer or even a bruiser wielding massive hammers. And unlike a lot of RPGs, it rewards experimentation instead of locking you into a boring archetype. The story might not hit you with deep emotional moments, but the world building and lore suck you in if you give it the time. Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is the definition of a cult classic, and man, if you missed it, you missed out on something special. This game takes the open world formula we all know, think GTA, but spices it up with an incredible setting Hong Kong. It's gritty, chaotic, and just oozing with atmosphere. The story throws you into the shoes of Wei Shen, an undercover cop infiltrating the Triads, and it pulls no punches when it comes to drama, betrayal, and brutal combat. What makes Sleeping Dogs shine is its focus on hand-to-hand combat. If you're a fan of games like the Yakuza series, you'll feel right at home. The martial arts mechanics are tight, brutal, and honestly, they never get old, especially when you slam a thug's head into a fish tank mid-fight. It's got that street brawler energy, but it's also got car chases, shootouts, and even undercover missions that add a ton of variety. It's just straight up fun from start to finish. Beyond the action, the game nails its open world design by blending the urban sprawl of Hong Kong with quieter cultural moments. You'll find yourself getting lost inside activities like street racing, betting on cockfights, or even just grabbing some dim sum at a local food stall. It's these little touches that make the world feel alive and different from the usual American city sandbox. It's wild that this game didn't blow up like it should have, maybe because it didn't have the marketing push or big name recognition. But trust me, Sleeping Dogs is one of those games that sticks with you long after the credits roll. It's the kind of game that makes you wish there had been a sequel, and honestly, if you're itching for an open world experience with heart-pounding action and an unforgettable story, this is the one to try. Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 is pure, unfiltered chaos, and that's exactly what makes it so damn fun. Set in the sprawling open world of the fictional island nation of Pano, this game gives you one job: cause as much destruction as possible. You play as Rico Rodriguez, an agent with a grappling hook, a parachute, and zero concern for subtlety. What makes Just Cause 2 stand out is how it embraces freedom and insanity. Want to tether a car to a helicopter and fling it into a military base? Go for it. Feel like surfing on top of a jet mid-flight? Absolutely. The game isn't about deep storytelling, it's about giving you a giant sandbox where explosions and stunts are your playground. Kanao is massive, offering deserts, jungles, snowy mountains, and cities to explore. Every corner of the map hides some ridiculous opportunity for destruction, and the grappling hook lets you approach it however you want. It's the kind of game where you'll get sidetracked for hours just messing around with vehicles and physics. Sure, the missions can get repetitive and the story isn't exactly memorable, but that's not the point. Just Cause 2 is all about creating your own moments of madness, and few open world games do that as well as this one. If you want a game where blowing things up is always the right answer, you need to give this one a shot. Ryse 3 Titan Lords. Ryse 3 Titan Lords throws you into a pirate-infested fantasy world, blending swashbuckling adventures with RPG elements. At its core, the game is about exploration scouring islands, ancient ruins, and dangerous jungles in search of treasure and power. You take on the role of a nameless hero whose soul has been stolen, and your journey is all about finding a way to reclaim it, but that's just scratching the surface. The game's world is packed with secrets, and it doesn't hand them to you on a silver platter. Unlike many modern open-world games, Risen 3 expects you to explore on your own. Quest markers? Minimal. You'll have to follow clues from conversations, make mental notes of landmarks, and dive into caves that may not even have a quest attached just because you can. It's got that figure it out yourself vibe, which feels refreshing if you're tired of open worlds that hold your hand every step of the way. Combat is tough and can be unforgiving early on, but the deeper you go, the more satisfying it becomes. Sword fights, muskets, and spells, each approach has its own learning curve, and the enemies don't pull punches. And then there are the factions. You'll need to align yourself with groups like the Demon Hunters or Mages, each offering distinct powers and storylines. Your decisions carry weight, with faction alliances and reputation shaping how NPCs treat you and what quests you unlock. Mafia 2.
About time you showed up.
Mafia 2 is an open-world game with a heavy focus on storytelling, and it nails that cinematic mobster movie vibe perfectly. Set in the 1940s and 50s, you play as Vito Scaletta, a young war veteran trying to climb the ranks of organized crime in the fictional city of Empire Bay. The game isn't about causing chaos for the sake of it, it's about living through Vito's journey, experiencing the highs and lows of a life bound by loyalty, betrayal, and ambition. What sets Mafia 2 apart from other open-world games is how committed it is to its narrative. The city of Empire Bay feels alive, with snowy streets in winter and bustling diners and bars in the summer, but the game keeps the focus on Vito's personal story. This isn't a playground of side activities, it's a period piece where every mission feels like another chapter in a movie. And that's part of the charm. You won't be flooded with endless distractions. Instead, the world serves as a beautiful atmospheric backdrop to a tightly written story. The combat mixes satisfying gunplay with brutal hand-to-hand fights, and the driving mechanics capture that classic 1940s feel where every car has weight and power. The attention to detail in everything from radio broadcasts to clothing styles helps immerse you in the era, making you feel like you've stepped into a classic gangster film.
The working man's a sucker, that's for damn sure.
Crysis 2007. When people talk about Crysis, they usually ask, can it run Crysis, because this game was a beast back in the day. But it's not just about the graphics though, damn, the game still looks crazy good for something released in 2007. It's the gameplay that really sets Crysis apart. You play as Nomad, part of an elite military unit equipped with these insane nanosuits that basically turn you into a one-man army. And trust me, when you start messing around with the suit's abilities, you feel unstoppable. The nanosuit is what makes the gameplay so damn fun. You've got options cloaking for stealth, maximum strength to punch enemies through walls, or maximum speed to zip around the map. And let's not forget the maximum armor mode, which lets you tank through firefights like a walking tank. The game gives you the freedom to approach each encounter however you want. Want to sneak around and take out enemies quietly? You can do that. Prefer to go in guns blazing? Hell yeah, that works too. The environments in Crysis are open and sprawling, especially for an FPS in 2007. You're dropped into this lush tropical island which looks gorgeous, and the game gives you plenty of room to explore and tackle objectives your way. There's a mix of jungles, enemy camps, and eventually some sci-fi madness once you get deeper into the story. And let's talk about the enemies first. You're dealing with North Korean soldiers, but then things get wild when aliens start showing up. It turns from a military shooter into a full-on sci-fi showdown. The physics in Crysis were ahead of their time. You can blow up buildings, knock down trees, and the way everything reacts to your actions just adds to the immersion. It's one of those games where you're constantly impressed by what you can do and how the world reacts to your every move. And of course the visuals. Even today, Crysis holds up incredibly well. The lighting, the textures, the draw distance, it was revolutionary back in the day, and it still looks damn good. The game pushed PCs to their limits, and if you had the rig to run it on max settings, it was mind-blowing. But But even without top-tier graphics, the game itself is just solid fun. Crysis isn't just a tech demo though, it's got a solid story, intense firefights, and that feeling of power thanks to the nanosuit. It's an FPS that gives you freedom and flexibility, which makes every playthrough feel different. If you haven't played Crysis yet, it's worth diving into even now. It's still one of the best FPS campaigns ever made. F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R is one of those games that perfectly mixes intense action with moments that'll make you jump out of your seat. You play as a member of the First Encounter Assault Recon, hence the name F.E.A.R, and your job is to deal with supernatural threats. But right from the start, you know something is seriously wrong. There's this creepy little girl named Alma, and every time she shows up, things get real messed up real fast. The combat in F.E.A.R is some of the best you'll find in an FPS. It's fast, brutal, and the gunfights feel insane. You've got this slow motion ability, and using it in the middle of a firefight is so damn satisfying. You can see every bullet flying, enemies react in real time, and explosions send debris flying everywhere. It's not just about shooting, it's about how cool it feels to pull off these crazy stunts while everything's happening in slow motion. And trust me, once you get used to using that slow-mo, you'll feel like a total badass. But what really makes F.E.A.R stand out is how it blends that awesome action with horror. Alma, the little girl I mentioned earlier, is straight up terrifying. The game loves to mess with you. One moment you're mowing down enemies in a crazy firefight, and the next, Alma shows up out of nowhere, and the whole vibe changes. You'll be walking down a hallway, and suddenly the walls bleed, or you'll hear creepy whispers. The jump scares are no joke, and they hit you when you least expect it. The story is pretty wild too. It starts off as this standard military mission, but the deeper you go, the weirder it gets. There are conspiracies, psychic experiments, and a lot of messed up things happening behind the scenes. And the more you learn about Alma and what's really going on, the more the tension ramps up. By the end, you'll be wondering what the hell just happened, but in the best way. If you're into FPS games that mix solid gunplay with some seriously creepy horror elements, F.E.A.R is a must-play. The action is tight, the scares are real, and it's just a hell of a ride from start to finish. Get ready for some intense firefights and a few moments that'll have you looking over your shoulder. Bulletstorm. Bulletstorm is one of those games that doesn't take itself too seriously, and honestly, that's what makes it so damn fun. You're not here for a deep story or some emotional roller coaster. No, Bulletstorm is all about causing as much chaos as possible and looking badass while you do it. You play as Grayson Hunt, a foul-mouthed, hard-drinking mercenary who's stranded on a planet full of psychopaths, mutants, and just about everything that wants to kill you. The gameplay? Straight up insane. The whole point of the game is to get creative with how you take down enemies. You're not just shooting them, you're kicking them into spikes, blowing them up with explosive barrels, or using your electric leash to yank them toward you and then smash them into something deadly. The more creative and over the top your kills are, the more points you rack up. It's like they took every action movie kill scene you've ever loved and cranked it up to 11. The skill shot system is what makes this game stand out. You're rewarded for pulling off the most ridiculous kills, and trust me, you'll want to try everything. Kicking an enemy off a cliff, launching them into the air, and then blowing them to pieces with a shotgun mid-flight. Yeah, that's the kind of crazy stuff you'll be doing, and it never gets old. It's all about style here, and the game gives you tons of weapons and tools to play around with. The story isn't going to win any awards, but it's got that over-the-top, ridiculous charm that makes it fun. Grayson's out for revenge, and the dialogue is filled with crude humor and one-liners that hit just the right spot. It's not meant to be deep, it's meant to make you laugh and enjoy the chaos. And if you're into games that don't take themselves too seriously, this one's a blast. Visually, Bulletstorm is bright, colorful, and full of explosive action. The world is a mix of jungles, deserts, and futuristic cityscapes, and it all looks like a playground for destruction. You'll be sliding around, kicking enemies, and blowing things up with the world constantly falling apart around you. It's non-stop action, and the game never lets you catch your breath. If you're looking for a game that's all about mindless fun, over-the-top action, and making every kill look as ridiculous as possible, Bulletstorm is exactly what you need. It's loud, it's crazy, and it's just a damn good time from start to finish. Well everyone, that was all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe drop a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day.